Hello and welcome to the LCTV News. I'm Medina Sehi. In this edition of LCTV News, City Council vote, new business on Boston Street, sit down with Seth Albaum, and more. On Tuesday, January 8th, the Lynn City Council will vote on who will replace Peter Capano on the City Council. Capano stepped down from the council after being sworn into the state legislature last week. In November, Capano was elected to represent West Lynn and Nahant. City rules state that if a seat becomes open on the council, then the runner-up gets appointed, and since Capano ran unopposed, the council will choose his replacement. The two candidates running for Capano City Council seat are Fred Hogan and Donald Castle. Hogan is a longtime Lynn resident and is well known throughout the community for his work with the youth through sports and recreation. He's one of the founding members of Stop the Violence. Currently, Hogan works for the Lynn Wastewater and Treatment Plant. He also serves as an assistant coach for the Lynn Classical football team. If appointed, Hogan plans to work on reducing the crime in Ward 6, and he is also in favor of replacing Pickering Middle School. Donald Castle is also a longtime Lynn resident and a graduate of the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Like Hogan, Castle is in favor of a new Pickering Middle School and would like to find better location and community involvement on where to place the new middle school if it were to be approved. One of Castle's initiatives is to vote for a complete audit of the city finance. In a promotion of literacy, the Lynn Tech Skills USA program raised over $10,000 to purchase 20,000 books for children. The Skills program is a very vital program for Lynn Tech, and Principal Carissa Caricados understands this. Caricados says that Lynn Tech is all about giving back to the community either through employment events or community events like the Skills USA program. Not only does the program raise money, it also helps students understand the importance of being leaders in their communities. It builds character skills and helps students understand the benefits of citizenship. David Barrios is the president of the Skills program, and he says that at Lynn Tech, they like to focus on community service, and with this literacy fair, they're able to put smiles on children's faces by giving them the opportunity to select a book of their choice. Boston Street will see a new business opening in the upcoming future. Bianchi's Pizza on Revere Beach will be coming to Lynn soon. The family-owned pizza is set to open their second location in approximately 2 to 3 months. They await the approval of their liquor license from the state's Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission. Approval by the Lynn License Commission has been granted for the new location, as well as an approval for the opening of Marco's Tacos on Lewis Street. The new location will be at the site of the former O'Brien's Pub. A Lynn attorney has been disbarred after he was convicted for larceny. Joseph Bernardo was disbarred after taking $21,000 from the Veterans Administration benefits of his mother. Bernardo was disbarred on December 14th by the Supreme Judicial Court of Suffolk County. This disbarment comes after Bernardo was convicted in Pittsfield District Court for larceny of over $250. Bernardo's sentence is 1 year in prison. A Lynn man was arrested and charged with attempted murder and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon in connection to a stabbing in Chinatown on December 29th. 24-year-old Valence Joycil stabbed a man in his late 20s. The victim was threatened for non-life-threatening stab wounds, according to Boston police. Police found Joycil at a nearby hospital where they found a knife in his coat and arrested him. 7 new officers were sworn into the Lynn Police Department last month during a ceremony at Lynn City Hall. Kara Crowley, Taylor Cash, Dylan Smith, Freddie DeMonadone, Robert Hines, Elvis Rodriguez, and Jeffrey Gaudet were all sworn into the office and have all begun work for the police department. Now for the sports update. The St. Mary's boys and girls basketball team captured the Bavarini on December 29th at Lynn Tech Field House. For the Lady Spartans, this was their 5th consecutive Bavarini title, where the boys have won 3 of the last 4 Bavarini titles. The Lady Spartans defeated Lynn Classical 62-34 and were led by Olivia Metela's 12 points. Pamela Gonzalez added 9 points to go along with 17 rebounds. Gonzalez was also named MVP of the tournament. The boys squeaked out an 82-79 victory over the Lynn English Bulldog in a tightly contested game. Jalen Echeverria led all scorers with 22 points. The Spartans used their size to punish the smaller Bulldogs in the paint. Ademide Badmus had a double-double with 16 points and 15 rebounds, and Joey Abbott-Walsh added 16 points and 9 rebounds for the Spartans. The Bulldogs were led by Alonzo Linton with 19 points. Jarnell Guzman and Justin Fitzpatrick added 13 points each for the Dogs. The Lynn English Lady Bulldogs improved to 4-2 after their victory over Gloucester on Friday. Kalia Reynoso led the Bulldogs with 13 points. Juliana Perry and Alana Espinosa each had 8 points. Next up for the Lady Bulldogs is a matchup with Marblehead on January 8th. Tip-off is at 7 p.m. Lynn Tech Lady Tigers defeated Nashoba Tech 49-32 to improve their record to 3-6. The Tigers were led by Alondra Sanchez's 17 points. Ariana Anaya had 16 points for the Lady Tigers. Next up for the Lady Tigers is a home game against Whittier Tech. Brian Clougherty's 4 points led the Lynn Jets hockey team to a 9-5 victory over Everett. The Jets saw several players score against the Crimson in what was a well-balanced attack for the Jets. John DeFilippo is 2 points away from reaching 100 career points. DeFilippo scored 1 goal and added 5 assists against the Crimson. Next up for the Jets is a matchup with Cambridge on Wednesday. St. Mary's boys hockey team are now 7-1 on the season after their shutout of Newburyport. The Spartans led Colby Magliozzi's 2 goals. St. Mary's goalie Joe Pertel earned his first shutout of the season after his 14 saves for the game. The Spartans host Smithfield, Rhode Island on Wednesday at the Connery Rink. Lynn Community Television is a finalist for the Massachusetts Creator Awards. The 3 nominations for the awards are Lynn Uncovered, Beyond Walls Underpass Lighting, and Lynn Uncovered Brian Pistols, the Training for Olympic Boxing Team. Here's a look at all 3 of the nominations.
Lynn was a place, I think the perception's always been there that it's a dangerous place. I think it's the contrary. I think like all urban areas, we have issues that we have to deal with. The Underpass Lighting project started through the work of Mass Development and Interface Studios. And Interface Studios had a lot of conversations with the community.
There was a desire for underpass lighting of 3 MBTA-owned bridges that cut through the heart of the downtown. And it was a real desire to have them lit. That they were areas of high vehicle and pedestrian strikes, as well as some crime activity. This was based on the lack of lighting there.
It's an interesting way, using art and light, to connect 2 parts of the downtown, improve walkability. And this is something that the residents said, hey, here's a need. We'd love to make this happen. So naturally, it was just a great project to kind of work on.
The lighting is perhaps the most beneficial work that we've done in that, perhaps it's going to save lives, right? So right now on Market Street, people are getting hit by cars because there's no lighting under there. The team obviously really cares. We think that this can be truly transformative. I think our hope for Washington Street and Central Square is that it creates an environment that's an increased walkability factor. So more people are walking around, more people are looking at this system and looking at the lights. And as they walk around, there's more eyes on the street. There's less negative activity and more positive activity.
I started breaking at a pretty young age. I want to say I was around like 10 years old. And it all started with my cousin Johnson, really. One day he came over to the house and he was showing my 2 older brothers, Eddie and Tony, how to do a backspin. From there, Tony and Eddie kind of ran with it a lot more. They started before I did. And it was just kind of that sibling rivalry. When Eddie started high school, Tony and I were still in middle school at the time. He told us about a group of guys that he would practice with, that he met up with at the high school, which was classical. And those guys were the Bacha Breakers. After school, me and Tony would go over down the street to classical and we would go practice with them. And eventually we became a part of the group. I think it pretty quickly turned much more into a family. There was a bunch of different places in Lynn that we used to practice at all the time. One spot that comes to mind right away is Club America, which is we're right in front of now. It's a church now. Rest in peace to Frank. He's done a lot for us to just give us a space to practice our craft. The Boys and Girls Club, which was a program that got started for us by Mark Feldman, who was a teacher in the Lynn public school system. Here and there, there would be practices in the classical cafeteria, practices at Lynn English, and Lynn Tech have like open basketball courts, and we used to just go and grab a corner and go practice there. Growing up in Lynn as a b-boy, there's a lot of different stages to it. So obviously when we first started off and my older brother Tony and I first started practicing with the rest of the Biochild breakers, you know, we were very naive to the whole game. We were young, this was new, we had no idea what it was. So for us, it was just something to do. It's part of a much bigger picture. Breaking is a part of hip hop, and as you dig deeper into that, you get to a bit more of a sophisticated level with it. You're learning more of the cultural parts of the dance, you know, of hip hop really. We learned the history that Lynn has with breaking, and Lynn has a very rich breaking history. At that time, I was completely naive too. I think one of the biggest influences to me when I started off in terms of, you know, bridging that gap was, at that time he went by the name of Red. He does a lot of work in Lynn now, he goes by the name of Justice Born. So he played a pivotal role in kind of filling us in on the larger context of what we're doing. I mean, because for a long time prior to that, it was the blind leading the blind. And then obviously he was very well equipped and knowledgeable in terms of the overall community in Lynn, in terms of break, not just in Lynn, but Massachusetts, like the East Coast and Northeast and such. And then we come to learn that, you know, one of the more reputable crews from back in the day is actually from Lynn as well. They're called the Lords of Illusion. To kind of learn their history and learn the stories of what they've done and how they were the ones that put Lynn on the map. Growing up in Lynn in the early 90s and such, like, there was a lot of, I guess we'll just call it negativity. This was a way for you to take all that energy you had built up, whether it was frustration, whether it was pure joy, no matter what it was, you could, you know, let it go through your dancing. But at the same time, it wasn't just letting go of things, it was creating things as well as a dancer. You know, creating your own original freezes, creating your own little maneuvers and movements within your dance, really tailoring the dance to yourself, coming up the way that we came up. It's like we didn't really have anything. To have those original components of your dance, that was almost like your currency. I'm not myself if I haven't gotten a certain amount of dancing done in my week. Too long without it, it almost feels like, you know, you've taken the tree away from its roots. Definitely in way too deep now.
Hi, my name is Charles Espinal. I'm 23. I'm from Salem, Mass, and I train here in Lynn at a Private Jewels Fitness. A little bit about my boxing background is I've been boxing for 9 years. I've trained in gyms like West End Gym in Lowell out of Mickey Ward. I've trained out of Haverhill. I've trained out of Peabody.
Hi, my name is Daniel Marte, and I go to KIP, and I'm 12 years old, and I'm a boxer at Private Jewels Fitness. What it made me learn was discipline and hard work. I just keep on working hard and stuff, and just like trying to get motivated and stuff. What coaches say to me is like, oh, keep on going, you got this, you got this. And then like they motivate me to keep on trying harder. So like if I'm tired, they like more like talk to me like, oh, you can be you can win, you can do it, and then just not give up.
You know, the kids are the ones that need to get to the next level. So our jobs as coaches is to facilitate them to get there. You know, the safety, you know, making sure that their dreams are getting met. Because, you know, the kid could work hard, but he's also a coach. I have to work hard along with them. Because if a kid is going 100 miles per hour, a coach better be going 150.
Yeah, getting these kids, you know, prepared for the Olympics. You know, obviously we're stepping it up a notch. But you know, our motto is right there on the beam. It's you know, you train, you fight, and you win. So to me, you know, the real work is and the fight is always won inside the gym, day in and day out.
The kid could go as much as a club could go. So, you know, you have to just give it 100% with these kids along with them. Show them that you care, show them that their progress means something, not just for themselves, but for their future and everybody around, because they're just becoming role models.
One thing is that I can use them both is self-defense, and another is my goal in boxing is to like become a champ like Mayweather and like Muhammad Ali and stuff.
And for us to train and trying to get into the Olympics and have that chance is just, it's awesome. And I love fighting in that national exposure, and I love the thought of representing this part of Massachusetts.
Well, the beautiful thing is the diversity. That's one thing that why I love my city, a great city of Lynn, because of the great diversity that we have. In boxing, it's huge diversity. We got people, they fighting from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Ireland, Canada.
I'm so grateful that Alex and was able to give me his facility and allow me to grow in the sport of boxing. How it came to, I wanted to go to the championship, and then after that, I started seeing, these kids coming into the gym that, basically were coming in through the same situation that I was. They didn't have a lot of guidance. They were coming in off of the street. So it was a privilege for me to be able to take these kids and hone their skills, help them to hone their skills, and become great fighters. And obviously, get them off the street, get them out of these gangs, make them, give them something to do that was productive and that could build their self-esteem, so that they could have an outlet to use.
It's not the problem is within the gym, it's when they leave the gym. The outside struggles, the energy out there, negative energy that always tempting these kids to just, get off their way to reach their goals. But these kids still come here after all the problems, after go on and stay here and just give it 100%.
But it's all about how bad you want it. And the more you want it, the harder you're willing to work. And we work really hard in this gym, especially with this heat.
Push yourself, and trust the process, because it's not going to be easy.
At the end of the day, it's just a relationship that all the coaches here, it's not just me, because it's legit, this is a family. It's not just me, and I'm not going to take all the glory for myself. It's my staff, my team, especially my team, my coaches, kids helping each other here. We work together, combined as one, that is just works like peanut butter and jelly. This is all for great sports, for one cause, so everybody to get there, we all need to work together. Teamwork, we made the dream work. That's how we do it.
The winners will be announced at the annual ceremony on Tuesday, January 29th at the Icon nightclub in Boston. On this week's Lynn Lowdown, host Alice Becerra sat down with LCTV's executive director, Seth Albaum. Here is this week's Lynn Lowdown.
Hello and thank you for joining us. We're here with Seth Albaum, the new executive director of LCTV News. I'm Alice Becerra, and Seth, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, you work here, so of course.
Just a walk across the entryway, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of before you came to LCTV News, can you give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. I've always been involved in community media in one way or another. I started out with college radio. From there, community radio is the term I'll use for it. Very small radio station in Alston in the late 90s. And that's really my first experience with something that brings community together through media. And from there, I became, we used to call the position access coordinator when the cable companies staffed the studios way back when. So Media One hired me to run the North Reading studio eventually. I would help out in Andover and Middleton. And I would do that even after I started teaching full-time in Chelsea. I taught video production 12 years. After a few years, I faded out the access stuff because it was too much with teaching. I cross-faded jobs. to use the TV term. And when they ended the program in Chelsea, I hung on teaching some other things a little bit, but it wasn't me. I went into business full-time with Upside Media. I was already running a website in Lynn since 2008 called lynnhappens.com. My own little way of building a community outlet in Lynn. I decided to try to take that full-time and also my live sound business full-time. I do event sound. One of the 12 hobbies I have. Too many. My hobby is collecting hobbies. But that didn't quite go as planned. I did miss the classroom. I went back into teaching at Lynn English for a year. A little bit off subject from my certification area and experience. I was teaching Microsoft Office for the most part and computer literacy. And I loved being in the classroom, but media literacy is really my passion, and community media. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be back in the business.
Yeah, do you hope to, you were saying that you had a blog that was about the Lynn community. Do you think that's going to translate to kind of stories that you're going to cover from here on out?
Well, through running Lynn Happens, I really got to know the community. I started it when I was only in Lynn for about a year. I moved here in 2007. I started it for two reasons, primarily. One, there was no place to find out what bands were playing where in Lynn. And I knew there were bands playing at places in Lynn at the time. So the community calendar aspect of it, which I was already used to doing from being in Access. Although the scope of it was beyond what an Access calendar typically lists, as far as entertainment listings go. And then before the Access Center here in Lynn at the time was able to get into the council chambers and install equipment, Lynn was the only city I knew that didn't have its meetings televised. Being in Access, I didn't really understand why. In the communities I had worked in the past, most of them, you just showed up with a camera on a tripod because they didn't have a fancy installation. And I used to comment on the local paper when they had articles about this issue, anybody with a camera can just show up, and as long as they're not blocking an aisle or being a fire hazard or disruptive, they can cover the meetings. Then I said, fine, I'm anybody with a camera. It was right when I was phasing out my Access jobs. So I started doing that and posting the videos on Lynn Happens, which I did for a lot of years until they started putting them online here through LCTV and its predecessor. And I said, well, that's redundant. We don't need two people putting city council video online. So that's when I stopped. So now, being informed more or less about, what's happening in Lynn, I think translates well now to this position where I hope that all the connections that I built up with Lynn Happens will continue now through LCTV. And also through LCTV, I hope to build more connections. Building community through media is really the way I see the position.
Yeah, and those stories that you hope to build around the community, are there any new angles that you haven't seen before that you think moving forward you want to translate into new stories or events or anything that you haven't seen that you want to see come forward?
Well, there's a few things we're working on now. We just invited the city council to do 5-minute updates. We have the mayor's updates, and I thought, well, I think the city council needs their 5 minutes too. So they'll at least have the invitation. Perhaps the council president will do the updates, or perhaps they'll rotate counselors, and really that's up to the council. I would like us to expand our news coverage as much as possible given our resources. And really for us to become indispensable in the community. We already are insofar as we're broadcasting the council and the school committee and the other boards that we cover. But I want more people to understand that we're a lot more than just the very important meeting coverage that we do.
Yeah. How important do you feel that it's the community to get on board with helping you guys, bring those stories to light?
Well, certainly, engaging with the community, we'll get good tips of where to go, what events to cover. I'm not looking to be an ambulance and a fire truck chaser. I'm not looking to cover those kinds of stories so much as human interest stories. We have a lot of wonderful organizations in the city of Lynn that we could cover, and really build on what we have been doing.
Well, yeah. So lastly, I want to ask, what are you most looking forward to?
What am I most looking forward to? Well, I feel like I said, I feel like I've returned to my career.
Home, yeah.
But this is the first time, besides what I did on my own with Lynn Happens, this is my first time doing this job in the community in which I live. And I think that's really what I'm most looking forward to.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Sure. Thank you for taking the time to interview me.
Of course. Well, there you have it. That's Seth Albaum. He is the new executive director of LCTV News. So look around for him. Come see our stories, and thank you for joining us.
And now for some upcoming local events. On Wednesday, January 9th, Thursday, January 10th, and Friday, January 11th, Christmas tree curbside pickup will be happening throughout the city of Lynn. Be sure to leave your Christmas trees out for the pickup. For more information, call the Lynn DPW or visit the City of Lynn website. The Winter Teen Drop-In Center will be taking place this Saturday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Lynn Tech Fieldhouse. The Drop-In Center will occur every weekend until March 16th. On Friday, January 18th, Arts After Hours will be hosting their Snowball 2019 at the Lynn Museum from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Lynn Auditorium will be hosting a free screening of Selma on Friday, January 18th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. in celebration of Martin Luther King Day. On Monday, January 21st, the 8th Annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service will be taking place at Lynn Tech from 9 p.m. to 1 p.m. LCTV's next Paramount film series, which will occur on Monday, January 14th, will feature Batman Sub-Zero. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. and the movie begins at 7 p.m. Thank you for watching the LCTV News. I'm your host, Medina Sehi. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, or go to our website, www.lyntv.org, to find out all the great things happening in Lynn. Have a great day and Happy New Year, everyone.